we'll get it kicked off if you like.
Yeah.
So to start with, do you just want to give the audience a little quick rundown on who you are and what you do now?
Yeah, so Anthony Koutoufides, I got to play at the Carlton Football Club for 16 years. So very lucky. As a young kid, I walked in when I was 14 at that club at their junior development squads and left when I was 34. So I got to play in the 15s, under 19s, reserves and seniors, so 278 games. Won a premiership in 95, which is the greatest day of my life. When I retired, I was a little bit lost for a good 3 years, got quite ill. So I jumped on Herbalife Nutrition that changed my life 9 years ago. I then started the business part-time for a good 3 years until my boss sacked me. So lucky I sort of built this job on the side. And now I've just been doing that really healthy, active lifestyle, been working from home, just an incredible life I've lived. And the company's going from strength to strength. It's been, it's in over 90 countries around the world. And a lot of people now are looking at the opportunity to come and join my team. And I'm really excited. I've got I've got tons of customers and clients that I look after as well, getting just crazy results. Just by incorporating whole food eating in our nutrition programs.
Yeah. Awesome. And then sort of like in your early life, were you always into footy and sports and that sort of thing? What was life like quite early on for you?
Yeah, about the age of 8, I got introduced to football at our local primary school. We had over 1,000 kids there at Layla East, and my brother and I fell in love with it instantly. We went to a local footy club to try out without telling mum and dad. By the time we got home, it was pretty late, and so they were like, "Where were you?" They were fuming, and we told them, and they didn't want us to play. But
right,
we had this family said, "We'll pick you up and take you to the games," and so we said, "Okay, we'll play." Mum and dad weren't too impressed by it, but then my dad started to take us maybe halfway through that year, and then mum joined on as well when they watched every single game I played after that, and. So that was the age of 8. In the winter, I played footy. And then in that summer period, my older brother, Paul, who was a year older than myself, he took up athletics. And so I watched him compete for half a season before I finally had the courage to get out there myself. And then I was quite a natural. So by the time I was in grade 5, I was a state high jump champion without, really running too much. And then, before I knew it, I became Australian champ at 14 and at 15 and 16 in the hurdles, 110-metre hurdles, had an Australian record. So I had a great junior career in that too, and I wasn't sure which pathway to go, you know what I mean? But it was the football that I just thought would be probably a bit easier for me to be able to make it number one, team sport and all those factors. I could still live at home with mum and dad. And so that was the reason. So I've always been into sport my entire life, and just I don't know where I'd be without sport. It's just something I've loved. We grew up, it was funny because I grew up in that Layla Thomastown area, the northern suburbs of Melbourne, which was known as probably almost like an upper class Broadmeadows, So I didn't have a great name to it, but I just grew up, it was unbelievable. We had all the young kids and, of course there was a heap of, Europeans, migrants there and the Australians, and we just mingled with each other and we just had the best time. And I grew up with some guys that just incredible athletes, like we're talking state champions who went to Carlton under 19s with me, who travelled interstate to compete with me in athletics. And, we won so many team events. So I don't know, I grew up with this handful of 8 to 10 really good sports people that we just played sport and competed against each other. So I was very fortunate.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And you made your AFL debut at 19, is that right?
Yeah. So I was on the list in 1991, but didn't get a game.
Right.
And then it wasn't until round 13, 1992, I got my first game, yes.
So what was that like? Because obviously that's, quite young, and you would have, been up against the big boys at quite a young age as well. So sort of talk me through how that was, and did you have to mature really early on and those sort of things?
Yeah, mature 100%. Because when I walked in those doors at the Carlton Football Club, really at the age of 17, so the pre-season I was 17, I came from the under-19s. I never did a pre-season before in my life. I went from doing athletics in the summer, giving myself 2 weeks off to then go and playing footy. And I don't think I really trained as hard as probably what I should have. But then come senior footy, it was on, man. It was serious. It was, these guys wanted to make it and would fight each other and compete against each other for spots in the team. And that's what it was like. It was a dog-eat-dog world as we, described it back then. And so it was tough. And I put on over that pre-season, end of season 91 to 92, I put on about 8 or 9 kilos and started playing. They started playing me at fullback in the reserves, which I won best and fairest that year in 1992 in the reserves by playing a fullback. And so I waited 6 or 7 times, I reckon I was emergency, and finally got picked round 13, 1992. I was extremely nervous, had all these phone calls coming through at home. My old mates were, coming over to visit me. It was a big deal. It really was back then a big deal to finally play senior footy, because if the clubs were going to pick between a young guy or an experienced player, when I played, they'd pick the experienced guy. The youngies weren't, they sort of get pushed.
Yeah.
It's a bit different to play kids, but back then it was a different mentality. So to get picked for my first game was a big thing. I was extremely nervous. Started on the bench, then played at half forward flank. I think I had about 15 touches, and I did all right actually that game, considering it was my first game and I didn't want to make a mistake.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then sort of only a couple of years later, you actually played in a premiership as well. So talk me through that, what the build up to the game was like, then the actual game itself as well.
Yeah, I went from 0 games in 91 to 6 games in 92 to 8 games in 93. I played the first half in 94, then I got dropped for 2 games. I thought it was the end of my career. And then they picked me again and played me on the wing, and I never looked back from that moment. So I could have easily given the game away, but I didn't. I persisted, luckily, and they gave me another opportunity to be able to play and showcase my skill. But so 94, in that second half of the year, I sort of cemented myself in the team and started to become a bit more popular with people. Started seeing a few people put on the number 43 for the first time, and so more people talking about me. Could have made the Vic team, didn't. Just unlucky not to make the All-Australian or whatever it was back in 94. And then all of a sudden there we were in 95. We had some ageing superstars. And in 93, they got to the grand final. It was emergency and they lost. 94, we were on top of the ladder with 1 round to go. We lost to Essendon, so we finished second. We lost to the 7th place team, Melbourne, in the first week of the final. Then we played Geelong, who had 4 of their key players out, and we got thrashed by about 10 or 11 goals. So we went out in straight sets. We didn't have a great pre-season in 95, and all the media reports were saying that we're too old and too slow and we won't win 95. And we had those ageing superstars, as I said, and so our window was closing very quickly. But we all gathered together in 95, and somehow we came up and just put on this winning spree like no one had ever seen before. We only lost 2 games for the entire year, and the 2 games of the 2 bottom teams. I don't know how, and they weren't even close. Crashed, I think, in both. And from that point onwards, we just went crazy. And even if we were behind at halftime, we still knew that we could go out there and win the game. And we went to the finals, and our toughest opponents, the toughest game that we had was our first week of the final. We came up against Brisbane Bears. They were back then, before they turned into Lions. And they threatened us. At 3/4 time, the game was in the balance. And I went full forward. I think Sticks kicked the first one, then I kicked the next 3 goals, and it just opened it up. We only won by 16 points at the end. So we were very lucky to get over that game. And then we thrashed North Melbourne, and Geelong were favourites to win the grand final, believe it or not. Don't know how, but they were favourites. And we just annihilated them by, halfway through that last quarter, we're up by 80-odd points. So we were just too good on the day.
Yeah. And would you say that was the highlight of your career?
My life, not just my career. I mean, that really was, Tom, in all honesty, I'm a wife and 3 kids, and I would never, obviously never replace a grand final for your family, never ever. But that feeling and that emotion, after the game of just thinking that all that blood, sweat and tears and everything that I went through, the cries, unsure, being, like smashed emotionally, it all came together for this one day in September in 1995. And it was certainly worth it, because we obviously celebrated after that 5-6 weeks and put on a lot of weight. I went from 95 to 103 kilos. It was worth every little kilo that I put on to go and celebrate with the boys, and we were the kings of the city. It was just an unbelievable time. We'd be playing footy, number one, an unbelievable time to win a grand final at the age of 22.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then sort of getting towards the end of your career as well. So you retired in 2007, but didn't you you did Dancing with the Stars in 2006, didn't you, while you were still playing? Is that right?
Yeah, I committed to it in 2006. I got asked, and so rang up Mum, and Mum said, I love that show, it's my favourite, so you're doing it. And so I thought, okay, I'll sign up and I'll do it. I'd never danced before. Even at my wedding, my waltz was terrible. I didn't even know there were steps to it. I actually just thought you just walked around and that was it. So I didn't know anything about dancing. In the back of my head, though, I used to watch Ricky Martin back then and think, geez, mate, I wish I could, he was a smooth dude and, he could dance. So in the back of my head, I thought, geez, I wish I could dance, and I got asked. So I did it. And it was a great experience for me going through. I was the least favourite to win, believe it or not, on the day. And I was in the bottom 2 for maybe 5 of the 10 weeks, I reckon. And somehow I got to the grand final. and somehow I nailed the last dance for the perfect score, and somehow I got the viewers' votes, and somehow I won the championship. It's incredible now when I think back of how much fun I had through. I mean, if I knew it was going to be that tough at the start, I probably would have said, listen, I'm not doing it, but I just took it on, day by day, and I had a great time. And to go on and win as well, what an experience it was. And Chris Hemsworth was on our series. So Chris has gone on to become a superstar actor, earning millions of dollars, and he's given a lot back to charity now too, through the bushfires, and he's given away stuff now through the crazy times that we're going through. So he's just a wonderful man.
Yeah, and you did Gladiators as well, didn't you? Was that a couple of years after that?
Yeah, it was a mistake, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. It was good fun. Yeah, so 06 I did Dancing with the Stars, and I played in 07. And at the end of 07, they were going to do the Gladiators again, and so they needed two, I guess, people that were maybe more renowned or more famous compared to the other people. So they chose me as the male version, and then Tatiana Grigorieva. She was Olympia on the show Gladiator. So she was a silver medalist from the year 2000 Olympics, so very popular lady. And that was fun. I mean, we lived away for 3 months, really. I mean, we got to see our family maybe a couple of times in between that. I think they flew up to see me once. So it was hard, but, that was, I guess, part of life back then. Yeah. But good fun because there were some great athletes that I was on the show with, and we competed against some great athletes as well. And so it was good fun. It really was, and got to meet some people that now we still communicate a little bit with each other, not a lot, but it was good fun. It only lasted, unfortunately, one series because the global financial crisis is very similar to now, if not worse now, I'm not sure. But the global financial crisis happened back then, so I think Channel 7 had to cut back on a lot of costs, and Gladiators was a very expensive show to produce.
And what would you say is the biggest lesson you've learnt from either Dancing with the Stars or Gladiators?
Biggest lesson? I don't know. The lessons I learned from football, the disciplines and all those little things that, there's no shortcuts, and how hard you have to work and you have to sacrifice a lot, is what I sort of brought to those shows. Now, in Gladiators was a little bit more fun, but so was Dancing with the Stars. But Dancing with the Stars, all I did was I just knew I was just going to work hard at it, and just work on my dancing techniques, and I just slowly improved, and so I took that upon myself there. And Gladiators was the same sort of thing. Like, we just learned from each other. It was tough and hard. We were strict on our nutrition. They trained us extremely hard, but I just was used to that sort of, hard training and disciplines and stuff that come along with it. So I just took all my attributes that I learned from footy and took that into the dancing and the Gladiators.
Yeah, nice. And then sort of coming out of football as well. So that was obviously something you'd spent a whole lot of, basically your whole life in. It was like the football career and that sort of thing. So did you have any plans coming out of football as to what you wanted to do next in your life, or were you a little bit directionless, or what was your path coming out of football there?
I wasn't ready for what was to come. I bought into a franchise of Lucky Hut. There was 3 other partners I had, and I was the face of the company, so everyone thinks I owned the whole thing, which I didn't, luckily. But that was like thriving when we first started. We're just doing huge amounts of numbers. And in the second year, the direction of the franchisors changed a little and started to just impact us a little. And then by the third year, we were in trouble. So I guess, franchises, if you rely on the owners to do everything, then you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble. Luckily, we got out of it okay. There was a lot of people that suffered through that time. So I thought I was ready, because I thought if I can just expand on these franchises, maybe then I can do all right and have a few running. And luckily, we didn't expand, because in that second year, we could see there was cracks starting to appear. So we were smart enough not to expand any further, although we had the opportunity to be able to do that. And so, I was working for a car finance company, but I was really unhappy in life. It wasn't like I was waking up in the morning looking forward to going to training or playing a game or playing with your teammates and stuff like that. It was a completely different life that I wasn't ready for. The doors at Carlton were closed to me. I tried to get back in there and work part-time, even offered to do it for nothing, just to be around the place to give back, what they gave me. But there was nothing. So it hurt a little. So, and the AFL, I tried to get back to the AFL. They said they had no money, and about 3 months later, they put on another 2 players that just sort of retired in that as well. So that was a big lie. And so I just had to find my feet again. And it took me a good 3 years. The good thing was for myself, I kept reading. I kept, looking at my goals. I kept, refining them. And I just worked on myself daily and hoping that one day things would turn around. And so through tough times and difficult times, I was able to find, the Herbalife nutrition, which number one changed my life physically and mentally too, because it really is good for your mental state as well. And when I had that opportunity to start something part-time to bring back my goals, to bring back my life really, and start to want to go out and achieve stuff, that's when my life really started to turn around. And so I built a lot of Koutoufides clubs around, which was so exciting at that period there when I had so many up and going, and we get people in and train them and feed them good nutrition results like crazy. And so, I've traveled the world, I've gone 8 Herbalife vacations that you qualify. So it's just been a remarkable, a dream come true for me. I've still got a lot of work to do, but I look forward to it every day, helping people get healthier and happier. And so, yeah, difficult. I wasn't ready for what was to come. 100% I wasn't, Tom, although I thought I was.
Right. And you sort of just touched on it there before about the Koutoufides stuff. So do you want to just talk me through when you started this and what this is all about?
I had a nutrition club with Herbalife back in, I think I started in 2012, and out of there we started our Koutoufides club, and we had 6 people when I first started, and it slowly grew. I mean, I started just without too much thought. It was more just to train people and then let's have our good nutrition after there. And it was a concept that came from America. It wasn't like I came up with a concept. I went to America and LA to see the Herbalife, see what was going on there in the Herbalife world, and I seen 200 or 300 people out there in Santa Monica Beach training, and I couldn't believe what I seen and the major impact that they were having there. So I brought that concept here, and so did some other people too. Started it probably maybe a bit after me when I first started, but we really evolved from there. And all of a sudden, I started to duplicate it into other fit clubs, and we started to get around all these different areas. And before I knew it, I had heaps like interstate and that as well, in particular South Australia and in the rural areas. So we had a great time doing that. Now we call it Active 24 North. I'm out in Mernda. I just stopped the Kouta name because it was a bit out of control with so many people using my name. And so now we're just there. And because of the circumstances, now we just basically brought everything online. So now we started with, I think, 6 people the first night. We're up to 26 people now. And tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., depending on when this podcast goes out, we'll do our next session. So hopefully we can build on there, get 30, 40, 50, 100 people online. It'll be good fun because it is for free. And while people are isolated, we still need communities, and we still need to talk to people and have, people around in our life. And so that's a great way to do it while training indoors, which I always probably never really had it high up, in my agenda of training to train indoors. I always love outdoors or the gym. I've always been that sort of guy, but it's really worked muscles that I haven't worked in years. So it's been actually a blessing to be able to do it too. It's working me hard in a different way, and I look forward to that. So that's sort of how the Koutoufides, all that stuff has eventuated as well. And we have all our groups that we have for our clients, and we just constantly just teaching and guiding them what to do. We have challenges online, and it's just been, and I dare say in this environment too, the more and more people understand how they need to be healthy. And it's hard to get all your nutrition out of food, man. It's hard, and I know myself, but they understand they've got to be healthy. Then I project that we are going to grow, our business quite dramatically, and a lot of coaches will come on board in that too, to grow something special for themselves, whether it's part-time or full-time, whatever it is they want to do from home.
Yeah, nice. I really like that. Now, do you have any daily habits that you're aware of that help you to be the high performer that you are?
Look, I learn. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. It's the normal thing. Sometimes I'm lazy too, but I try to keep to my normal routine now that I did previous to the lockdown. I get up early. I do meditation, and so that's something. If you asked me maybe 18 months ago, I would have said, "Yeah, mate, just get away from me." Maybe definitely 5 years ago. Maybe 18 months ago, I was more open to it. But I do that. I read my goals and affirmations, and I do all those sort of things and visualization stuff when I can. And of course, I spend time with the family and the kids and that as much as I can too. So what I do is I try to get up early and try to get my morning routine right. So then after that, I'll have more time throughout the day to be able to spend with the kids or go for a walk with them now while we're still allowed to go for a walk, and keep them active and spend time with them. And train with my oldest boy, Jamie, when I can as well, because he loves his training, which I admire, and I love to be able to train with him in that as well. So I put all these things in place, so then I still, stay on track, because I always say, if you stop learning and stop developing, you're pretty much dead. You know what I mean? You've got to keep developing yourself and getting yourself better. And I know a lot of people are going to get into bad habits by having the lockdown and get into habits that they're probably going to regret when we get out of it. But for myself, I'm going to try to stay as level-headed as I can. I've been impacted too, like a lot of people. So, but we just got to soldier on. day by day, get better and work on it. And, things will turn out for the better.
That's a great answer. Now, what would you say is the biggest challenge you've had to face in your life to date, and what have you learned from it?
Well, my father's death was the one, Tom, that destroyed me as a young kid. I wasn't ready for it. I never thought he would ever be gone. I was still living at home at that stage, and I'd been a good European boy. I probably would have stayed at home if I never got engaged or married. I mean, mum did everything, just spoilt me. But that was a tough moment for me, losing my father. He got diagnosed in early December. By early March, he was gone. So 3 months of not many good days that he got to spend, himself. And so I was really just, what was I, 20, just turned 25. I just won a premiership not long before that, on top of the world. And next thing I knew, 2.5 years later, whatever it was, I was in the bottom. I was at a very low point in my life. And football became insignificant for me at that stage. I was drinking a lot, socialising too much, not really training that hard because all I could think about was my father. But when I got to a point in one of the games in 1998 when I finished with 5 possessions against Fremantle, and there was a big article in the back page, and Mike Sheehan wrote, "Drop Cooter," I knew I was in trouble then. And I sat down with my 2 greatest mentors, Wayne Britton and Barry Mitchell, and they said, "Cooter, it's up to you now. The death of your father, yes, we understand, but this is footy and reality in life. And if you want to continue on playing footy, you're going to have to train harder because you're really unfit." And that was true. So I went home. I was very emotional. I thought of my father, and I thought, what an idiot I am. If he was looking down on me, would he want to just see me going in drunk every weekend and not caring about footy? Or would he want to see me play the best footy that I possibly could play? And I knew the answer was pretty simple. And so I promised him. And when I promised him, I was going to stick to it because I didn't want him to think that I was a liar. So I said, "Dad, I promise I'm going to train harder than I ever did before. I'm going to do it for you." And I did it. And I went out there, trained harder than I ever did. I got myself really fit by then. That year, I was just playing extremely good footy at centre-half back. And then come 99, I had one of my great years. 2000, I got voted most valuable player in the competition. 2001 was another great year until the injuries came. And then, of course, a different coach and all that at the end of it. So 3 really good years, all off the back of the worst time in my life, losing my father.
Yeah, right. And then would you say he was the one who had the biggest influence on your life as well, or was it someone different?
He had an influence because he was by my side and believed in me like my mother did and like my brothers did. I can't say he gave me a huge amount of guidance because he never really understood the game. There were some things when I look back on, I thought he'd always say, "Get the ball, catch the ball with one hand," right? He'd say it like that. And my brother and I, my older brother Paul, we tend to laugh about it a bit now. So it wasn't like he taught me a lot, but he was just there by my side and always believed in me like my mother did and my brothers did. And through those difficult times at Carlton, if they weren't there to say, "You're still the best player," I don't know, I probably would have fallen into a heap. So I'm very lucky I had them. So yes, he was a great mentor in that sort of way, but a great support in that too at the same time.
Yeah, nice. And what does the next chapter of your life look like going forward?
Yeah, look, I'm still going to do this healthy, active lifestyle. I'm going to continue on what I'm doing. I'm going to help people get healthy and happy. I'm going to help them both with their physical, things to transform their lives that way, and also help them build a business for those that are keen as well. I look forward to that, traveling, around the world and, helping a lot of people and developing myself. So I'm always going to look to work to develop myself, to get myself better and, as a person too, to be able to then guide them to become better people as well.
Nice. Now, before I get into my final 3 questions, where can people find you online?
I'm on Instagram, even on Facebook, public Facebook page, so Anthony Koutoufides, both on Instagram. And on Instagram, if they follow me there, they'll see a lot of stuff that I do as well. And they can see some of the results and that I get. I, do little videos out there to help them to get a lot of value out of it as well, to be able to hopefully guide and help them to, whether they're young, aspiring athletes, older, or just people trying to get healthy, or, the mental side of things and that as well.
Sweet. I'll chuck a link in the show notes for those. So now we'll get into the final 3 questions. So firstly, something that I like to live by, and the caption that kind of defines SOTA is "Define your greatness." So in your opinion, how would you define greatness?
Greatness is just doing the very best that you can, in my opinion. We're not all blessed with, like at football, if I use that as an example, not everyone's blessed with, these skills, but what people do is just get the very best that they can out of themselves. So I've seen people walk in the door that had so much talent and just waste their ability. And then I see others with not much talent and get the best out of themselves. To me, that's greatness, to be able to just do that. Just work on yourself every day to get yourself better and get every ounce of bit that you can out of yourself to succeed in any way that best that you can.
Love that. And now this second one is kind of like a hypothetical situation. So if you had the opportunity to speak to everyone in the whole world, so imagine everyone in the whole world is listening to you speak at one moment in time, what 3 pieces of advice or 3 truths would you tell them?
The advice, I guess, probably do what I do. You know what I mean? Set your goals, set your affirmations and have your vision and mission. You know what I mean? All those things have you got it covered to be able to then go and chase, because if you're not chasing goals, like what I said, are you really alive? You know what I mean? If you're just floating in life, and some people set their lives up and they can just go and relax, and I'm all for that. But for those chasing their dreams, man, it's about getting up every day and looking at that day and going, number one, thank you for being alive. Number two, what can I do to better myself every single day to get myself out there and, slowly improve. And the dramatic amount of improvement they can get from the start of one year to the end of the year can be huge.
Awesome. All right. And now we'll get into the final question as well. So I reached out to have you on the podcast because I believe you are someone who is state of the art and strives to be that every single day. And I'd just like to ask you, in your opinion, what does it mean to be state of the art and why is this important?
State of the art, well, probably just what I covered as well. And state of the art, doing the best that you can, getting the best out of yourself every single day, staying disciplined, committed and striving towards your goals and all that. And that's how I sort of live my life, is what I learned from football. And this is what I learned from football, is that you can have talent, but doesn't mean you're going to make it. You can not have talent, but you work your butt off and you make it. And so you learn there's ups and downs. There's times when you're unsure. There's good days, bad days, good games, bad games, great months, bad months, good years, bad years. At the end of it, like what I always say to people, I went through tough times, losing my father, difficult times at the end of my career, maybe with the coach and his coaching style and that old school stuff that didn't really relate to footy at that time, when things were really evolving. But at the end of the day, I made the AFL Hall of Fame. And so through all my ups and downs and all these times I was unsure, couldn't get a kick and whatever, at the end, you can still make the Hall of Fame if you just work at something every single day. You don't have to be perfect every day, because that's not what life's all about. And when life throws you out challenges, more problems, more money is what they say, basically. So that's how I see it.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, thank you very much for coming on the show today.
No worries, Tom. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Awesome.